Hello and welcome to the SATLUJ podcast. Today we welcome back a regular guest to our show, Dr. Bakshish Singh Sandhu, MD. Dr. Sandhu is a highly experienced and board-certified internal medicine doctor, but as well as being an accomplished medical practitioner, he's also a highly respected and indeed active campaigner for both Sikh rights and the nation of Khalistan. He's the current president of the Council of Khalistan and also the president of Khalistan Food for All, a charity established to fund UN food programmes. And is also the co-founder of Sikh for Justice, having been with the organisation since 2007. And even amongst this enormous list of achievements, he still had time to author the book Punjab, a tale of state terrorism, persecution, econicide and genocide, available on Amazon and other outlets. Dr. Sandhu, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again today.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for having me on your program.
Pleasure as always. Now, Dr. Sandhu, there are loads of different topics I'd like to discuss today and get your thoughts on, but let's start with one of the most relevant to our ongoing discussions. That's of the Khalistan referendum. Now, as a co-founder of Sikh for Justice, you were of course fresh back from Auckland, New Zealand. I understand the event was a massive success.
So, Mr. Scott, the event in Auckland, New Zealand was highly successful. There were so many people in long lines, and each line has multiple lines in itself. So, and then there was a line like serpentine line going many blocks. So it's very enthusiastically people were coming, and they're very happy. They brought their families, they brought their small kids. And one thing we have observed that this referendum has taken the campaign to liberate Punjab from Indian occupation to another level. I explain that in such a way. So as you see that there were small kids, their ages like 8, 9 and 10, and they were on the stage. And all those kids were competing with each other for stage time. They were trying to snatch the microphone from each other, and they were very eloquent. They were very good speakers, and they were saying, we want Khalistan. So this is like a smaller generation, less than 10 years. Another thing has happened, that a referendum has created layers of different generations. Like people from 15 to 30 to 40, that's another generation which has, come on board with the Khalistan referendum. And people older than 40, they are also very enthusiastic. So India's agenda was the Sikh for Justice, only a few people, we're going to kill them or they will die natural death, and then there'll be the end of Khalistan referendum and campaign to liberate Punjab from Indian occupation. But that has had actually the effect opposite to what India was thinking. So now there are multiple generations in the same time, like fathers, their sons and their sons. So 3 generations have basically come to support and Khalistan referendum. It's very positive news. People are very happy. They were patiently standing in lines. Food was good. Everything was as good as could be.
Very encouraging to hear. And in fact, I would refer our audience to yesterday's Perspectives show when we did cover the referendum, and in fact a Hindutva piece of propaganda video that claimed that the referendum and in fact the whole Khalistan movement was not supported at all by the diaspora community in New Zealand, and yet we see 37,500 people from the Sikh community out of a total of 50-something thousand turning up for the referendum. So I think that really was a pretty powerful response to the Hindutva propaganda. So, Dr. Sandhu, let's move on then. Let's completely change the subject. And I'm interested to know your thoughts in another news article that's come out of Canada. And this is, it was actually the Globe and Mail, traditionally a newspaper that seems to sort of tend to follow a more pro-Modi agenda, I would say. But they've released an interesting article that actually says that the Canadian Security Secret Services, Intelligence Services, CSIS, actually strongly believe that Modi was aware of the plot to kill Hardeep Singh Nijjar and therefore, of course, the transnational repression operation that is targeting Khalistan activists globally. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, it's pretty significant accusation to say that the Prime Minister of India was fully aware and therefore, by implication, approved of the murder of a foreign citizen on foreign soil.
So that's exactly right. What has happened that in this process of transnational assassination of Sikhs, killing of Sikhs in other countries, and transnational repression and transnational interference in the affairs of Canada, it goes to the top. See, there's a Modi at the top, and then in the chain of command goes to Amit Shah, then goes to Sumant Goyal and Ajit Doval. And then they hired Vikas Yadav, who hired a foot soldier, Nikhil Gupta. So this chain of command is basically intact. What happens usually that there's a long chain. So let's say there are 7 or 8 steps and different people in each step. And what happens, Indian government usually eliminates some steps in between, thus breaking the link, and you don't know where the information came from and where it stopped. However, here is very clear, starting from top, from Prime Minister Modi to the foot soldier Nikhil Gupta, the command is intact. Absolutely, in India, not a leaf can move without the permission of Prime Minister Modi. So Prime Minister Modi was complicit or had the knowledge from his intelligence agencies like National Security Advisor and RAW, the Research and Analysis Wing of Indian government. All these people are involved. And this has now been proven to be right, that the government of India at every level, up to the highest level, was aware of these assassinations. Actually, they planned. And then they basically had instructed their consulate officers and consulate officers to carry out the planning and execution of assassination of Sikhs. Their idea was, by threatening Sikhs, they can basically stop the referendum. But it has had just the opposite effect.
One thing that I just find astonishing with this, just to pursue this particular point, is that, of course, we've talked quite often about Ajit Doval and the raw apparatus being involved in this operation. What has astonished me now is that, being mentioned in the Washington Post and various other publications, and indeed even by the Canadian government, these names of Amit Shah, the Home Minister, Jai Shankar, the Foreign Minister, these are senior ministers in the Indian government who are aware of this operation to murder Khalistan operatives and Khalistan activists overseas. It almost points the question, well, who in India didn't know about it? It seems like everybody in the senior ministerial level knew about this operation to kill Khalistanis.
So there's a comprehensive plan. Exactly, that's what's happening. So when there are diplomats, Indian diplomats and Indian consulates in Canada, USA, UK, and all other places in the world, they have the same agenda. They have same instructional process. They instruct these people. For example, that's what happens, that the diplomats, they recently started a propaganda life certificates. So what are the life certificates? That means they go to the Gurdwaras or they go to Mandars and they say, okay, we want to meet with you. We want to straighten out your pension plans and all that. That's basically blinding people in the sense that India tries to convey that, oh, we are friendly with you. We will straighten all your pension problems. But why do they come to the Gurdwaras, houses of worship and Mandars? They come there to gather intelligence information on Sikh activists. This is how they operate. They come for something else, but they have something else in mind. So then in one of the Gurdwaras in Canada, what the Sikhs did, they spread the flags of India on the roads leading to the Gurdwara. And Jai Shankar has said, nobody can touch the Indian flag. So what happened then? The cars of the Indian diplomats, the vehicles of Indian diplomats have to drive over those flags covering the road surface. So this basically is the process in which Indian government, by different means, other thing they do, they send intelligence agents, clandestine process, undercover agents, they send to the Gurdwaras, Sikh organizations to basically get information, and then they use the information to be sent to the higher level in the Indian government. From there they come the instructions how they should proceed and who they should assassinate and how they should repress and interfere in the internal politics of countries like Canada and others. You have seen that even in New Zealand, they don't want the referendum to happen. They oppose the referendum. However, the New Zealand government said, look, this is a right to free speech. This is a right to choose. People have right to vote. This is a peaceful process. And they say, okay, we give you permission to hold the referendum in one of the most prestigious and iconic locations in Auckland. There's Otea Square. And as you see, people came in droves. And there's so many people. It's unbelievable. So the Indian government has tried to stop the referendum. They have not been able to do so. And they will never be able to do so because the wave is very strong.
Now, Dr. Sandhu, you touched on quite an important point there, maybe on a couple of occasions, where you talked about the diplomats or the diplomatic missions, the consulates. They have been, of course, in Canada, we've seen at least 6 diplomats expelled, Indian diplomats expelled, primarily because it looks like that RAW and other intelligence agencies have been using the consular infrastructure, at least in Canada and probably further afield, to undertake all sorts of intelligence missions. Now, of course, we know that the West probably does the same sort of thing, but certainly they've been doing it in Canada, but it has been linked to actual criminal activity. Now, I want to join that comment also to where you referred to the consulates have, the mandirs, the Hindu mandirs have now been used to offer consular services. In other words, the government of India is using places of Hindu worship to undertake government business. Now, India, by its constitution, is a secular nation. It is not supposed to link any government services to any particular religion. It's specific in the Indian constitution. So are we seeing basically the Indian government abusing the infrastructure of its country? That is, firstly, the consulates, and secondly, the religious mandirs, the Hindu mandirs. Are they abusing these locations for its own nefarious purposes?
So, Scott, you have mentioned about the Indian Constitution. So what Indian Constitution may have as a content, the content may be whatever it is, but the content is not good for Sikhs, because this constitution does not recognize Sikhism as a separate religion. So the Sikhs have come to the realization that this constitution does not protect the Sikh rights. And the Sikhs are put in prisons, and they are basically, that constitution does not apply to Sikhs as individual rights. Other thing. So let's see, this constitution is, we can say, the instrument of Indian government. Like they have made Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, they have made National Security Act. Under those acts, they can put anybody in jail without any cause, without any charges being filed. Now, that's the condition or that's the situation of the Indian Constitution. Now, the government has to enforce the constitution. But they say, oh, India is one majority Hindu country, therefore the laws can be made, but they're very hard to enforce. What happens whenever there's basically violence? The police people come on the side of the people who are attackers. And the people who are being attacked, they are being charged. So that's the sad story of Indian Constitution. So Indian Constitution basically is a piece of paper that has no value for minorities. For example, attacks on Christians. If 500 Christian churches are burned, where's the Constitution? If, let's say, there have been 35 major massacres of Muslims, then where's the Indian Constitution? And who manipulates the Indian Constitution? So it's just the Indian Constitution, people have lost faith in it because they promulgate such laws which are dangerous to the minorities, like farm laws. So what happened? Farm laws. India refused to negotiate with the farm unions. They don't want to negotiate with the farmers. And 750 Sikhs or farmers died there. Where's the compensation? Why they have to die? Because India wanted to take the control of the land ownership from the farmers and give the benefit to its big corporations. So people have lost faith in Indian constitution, and even I think the Indians have lost faith. But this is the Hindutva forces which is supporting, which belong to BJP, and the BJP is basically supporting Narendra Modi, Indian Prime Minister. So they are hand in glove to suppress minorities, take their rights away, under the slogan that Hindu is in danger. Why is Hindu in danger? There are almost 1.2 billion Hindu people living in India, and there is their government. And this basically is a phrase to mislead people, mislead people and carry out the repression and justifying that we are doing so because Hindu is in danger. That's basically cookbook story. They just made up reasons to carry out tyranny against minorities.
And of course, one of the most blatant and recent misuses and abuses of the Indian Constitution was, of course, this use of the mandirs to undertake consular business. And of course, the Khalistan movement had protesters outside a lot of these mandirs saying, look, this is not fair, you cannot do this. Now, of course, those protesters were then attacked by violent Hindu mobs. As of course the police have reported, and we've seen loads of videos reporting on this. And of course, it's very clearly been pushed by the RSS. It's a very deliberate tactic. It's a very provocative tactic. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from this violence occurring in Canada, in Brampton?
So what's carrying in Brampton is the Sikhs are gaining political power in Canada. So in order to reduce their power or basically finish the power, Indian government has come up with different ideas, with different solutions. What they have been doing, they defame Sikhs. They basically also they go to the Gurdwaras, they cause disturbance in the Gurdwaras among Sikh organizations, but Sikhs have wisened up. Sikhs are now very careful and very sensitive to Indians coming to the Gurdwaras, and they have been very successful in stopping it. Basically, so what the Indian-based, Indian origin politicians in Canada, they basically go and talk to their colleagues, and they talk bad about the Sikhs, and then they create situations in which there is basically violence. So they basically always, they're the so-called court, the Sikh for Justice has been labeled falsely as, let's say, terrorist organization. That's their propaganda machine. But we don't have any criminal records. We don't promote violence. We don't incite violence. We tell people, all people have equal rights. So let's get them their rights. That includes the referendum. So now talking about the last question you asked about the Indian diplomats, the expulsion. So what India is basically bullying some countries like Canada. Oh, you cannot basically expel our diplomats. So what happened? Canada tried to talk to Indian government. So, these are the 6 diplomats. We want to expel them. And we want you to have options. See, India says our diplomats have done nothing wrong. So Canada says if your diplomats have done nothing wrong, then you should take their immunity away. Once you take their immunity away, then we can put charges on them. So let the court decide that the Indian diplomats are involved in assassination and repression of Sikhs or not. But the Indian government said we are not going to remove the immunity to our diplomats. So then the Canadian government said, okay, we're going to expel them. So once the Canadian government makes an announcement of expulsion of Indian diplomats, India withdraws them and says, oh, we did it first. So they lie at every step. once the Canada gave the order for expulsion of these 6 diplomats, then India said, oh, we're going to take them out, we're going to withdraw them, but that was not right. Coming to the issue of temples, Hindu temples being used as launching grounds for attacks against Sikhs. So even let's say, Hindu priest, Rajendra Prasad, he made announcements from the stage, oh, we're going to distribute swords and we're going to kill Sikhs. And then they went on rampage and, damage vehicles, block traffic. So they think that they are so powerful that they can block roads, they can carry out, let's say, attacks on Sikhs and get away with it. But they can't. They cannot get away with these because now is an age of information. People make instant videos, goes viral within seconds all over the world. They cannot hide. So what happened, other thing was that Rajendra Prasad, who is the priest in Hindu temple, Hindu Sabha Mandir, he was fired. But next day, he was reinstated by the pressure from Indian politicians or back Indian government. So such is a sad state of affairs. So we are saying to India, we are saying to the whole world, let us have the referendum. India did referendums. We want to have the same referendum. We want to have the same referendum the people of Quebec did in Canada and Scottish people did in Scotland. It's no different from Indian referendums. So that's only right. So India's position to oppose Khalistan referendum is very weak, and India is losing every day. But Mr. Scott, I want to say one more thing. People learn from the experiences. So let's say if you keep on doing the same experiment again and again and again, and you expect different results, that's not going to happen. That's well-known, basically, phrase. So what India has tried to do, stop the referendum in London, try to stop the referendum in Brescia, Italy, Milan, Italy, try to stop the referendum in Canada, multiple places, United States of America, and also they canceled 4 of our referendum sites in Sydney, Australia, and now they try to stop in New Zealand. But they have not been able to do so. So basically, if they're smart, I'm not saying that they're not smart, but I'm saying that if they have realized they're unable to stop the referendum, they should stop opposing it. Just because they continue to oppose, this is having the opposite of the intended effect they want to have. So it's good for us in the sense, India opposed the referendum, but we are going ahead with it. And all the democracies say referendum is legal, democratic, and peaceful process. We are not going to stop the referendum. So India has to swallow all its pride in the sense that they have been unable to stop referendum. And you have seen in Auckland, New Zealand, how many people, unbelievably successful referendum has happened. So these people, then they say, oh, in Punjab, nobody wants Khalistan. But these people are young people. They have come from Punjab in the last few years, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And they are the voice of the people of Punjab who are not allowed to speak. So this is basically the outcome, which is highly expected. There will be the outcome or referendum in Punjab will be just like the voting in Auckland or in San Francisco or Sacramento.
So this war that has been going on between, I would say, the Brahmanical controllers of India and certainly the Brahmins against the Sikh nation, the Sikh community, has really arguably been going on since literally the very establishment of Sikhi. And clearly it is not going to reach, there is going to be no winner in this war because it's been going on for literally centuries. Are you therefore saying that there can only be one outcome of this because they've had centuries to try and settle it one way or the other? The only outcome of it is to grant the Sikh community their own nation.
Well, the Sikh community has come together. Well, Sikh community has tried to work with India. We tried to negotiate with them different times. But what Indian government has been trying to do, assimilate Sikhism. So if the Sikhs don't follow, let's say, the wrongdoings of India, if they don't like what India is doing to Sikhs, they have come together. So India thought that they will be basically able to finish Sikhs, and India with the tanks, helicopters, poisonous gas attacked Darbar Sahib. So 10,000 people were killed, and they chose the day of highest number of pilgrims come there, because that was the martyrdom day of Sikh Guru Arjan. So they thought by attacking Darbar Sahib and destroying, razing to ground Akal Takht, they will be able to suppress Sikhs. But the Sikhs are not suppressible, because the Sikhs have gone through the experience of fighting wars against foreign invaders. Those foreign invaders were very powerful at the time. They had hundreds of thousands of troops. And there on the other side, the Sikhs were in 6,000, 10,000. And in such odds against winning, the Sikhs won those wars against the Mughals and the foreign invaders. I think if history is any guide, then India should basically let Punjab become an independent country. That'll be good for the region. That'll be good for India, good for Pakistan, good for people of Punjab. It will be all good. But if Punjab is not created as a country, then this process will continue. And India cannot sit and rest. So if India thinks, they will be basically happy to suppress Sikhs, the Sikhs are not going to take lying down. This war will go on until Punjab is liberated from India.
Now, on this march towards the establishment of Khalistan, which so far is far advanced, and it is approaching, one hopes, this actual day when we do see the establishment of Khalistan. But of course, that will involve global governments and their acceptance of the whole concept. Now, we see at the moment Modi is joining other world leaders at the G20 in Brazil. We also have a change of government in the United States, Donald Trump coming to power in January. Do you think there is going to be, first of all, do you think the G20 discussions will amount to anything, particularly when it comes to Modi, transnational repression, etc.? But do you think the establishment of President Trump, do you think he will make a difference? Do you think he will accelerate this march towards Khalistan?
Okay, so the G20, I don't think there are any significant outcome from G20. G20 countries are not basically seeing eye to eye with each other. So with the new President Trump coming into power, we'll have to see how to move. However, the basic tenets don't change. The Department of Justice does not change. The U.S. intelligence agencies, their system doesn't change. All the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, they basically want to protect the country of United States of America. So if Americans are being assassinated by a foreign government like India, here, no president will tolerate that. So I think that the President Trump's policy towards Khalistan is unlikely to change. Then we think that it may become more supportive. You have seen now how the United States government has put sanctions against about 18 or 19 Indian companies. They put sanctions on them. So I think that process is going to go on. The relationship between India and United States of America is not going to recover soon, because as long as Modi is there, it will stay basically in the same position, and they will have to see how it proceeds.
Well, there's a big question if Modi is still there. And really, this leads on to the big news that came from the United States overnight. That is of the indictment of Gautam Adani, this Indian billionaire, this sort of very close friend of Narendra Modi. He's been indicted on bribery and corruption charges. And of course, there have been all sorts of accusations in the past, and including current accusations from Rahul Gandhi overnight from India, that he's essentially accusing of Modi of being involved in this bribery and corruption case with his friend Adani. Do you think this has the potential to bring down Modi? And if it does indeed bring down Modi, do you not just think he will be replaced by yet another figurehead of the RSS? Do you think it will make any difference?
Very good question, Angus. So basically, the Modi supporters, the Hindu belt, see, they are complicit with what Modi does. So they basically, the unfortunate thing is, all these Hindutva belt Hindus, they don't see anything wrong with what Modi is doing. And that's a problem. So, they should stand up on the right side of the justice, but they always stand up on the wrong side of the justice. So Modi's policy, RSS policies, BJ policies are anti-minority religions. And that's fine with people who have elected Prime Minister Modi. So this is not going to change. You have seen there was like a documentary, India, the Modi question, that showed everything about the Godhra train incident, following violence, in which about 1,000 Muslims died and many Hindus died. But I'm telling my Hindu brothers that India does not mind if many hundred or thousands of Hindus die as long as they kill minorities. See, as long as the Indian government wants to have a violence against minorities, and if some Hindus come in between, they don't care about them if they are also basically eliminated. That's number one. The number two is, that then there was the Fifth Estate, the documentary from, I think, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, that brought all these things. But all these things have not had significant effect. It has had effect. The effect has been that Modi no longer has a majority in the Indian Parliament. But still, their power has been weakened, but she is still Prime Minister. Beyond all this, so if you go in the history, look at, India, the Modi question, the charges of corruption against Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah, and then what's happening even now, as you have just mentioned about the case regarding the stock manipulation and other things, they're going on. But I guess it's the people of India who have to stand up for the rights of everybody, means all the people in India. But that's not the case, because this is never going to happen, because as you have said that the Hindu is in danger. So why is Hindu in danger? They have their own power. Indian parliament's majority Hindu administration, Hindutva forces are acting. So this basically goes on and on and on, and it's not going to stop. But we are concerned with the independence of Punjab, and we think that Punjab can be liberated. But I will make another statement, and I think our talk is coming to close, that the Indian government had the narrative that, few Sikhs are asking for Khalistan, and we are going to kill half of them, and other people will die natural death or something like that. But three things have come out. One is that every Punjabi, mostly every Sikh, wants Khalistan. And there may be few people here and there who say, we want to live in India. But then if some few people want to live in India, but that means they have not realized, or they have no cognizance to be able to realize that there have been ongoing econocide and genocide of Sikhs, and they still want to go with India, they can go with India. Second thing was that the Indian government thought that they can intimidate foreign governments, and they can bully the foreign governments. But that has not happened. Canada has stood up to India regarding the repression and transnational assassination. And the third thing was that India thought that they basically will stop the referendum. And as I mentioned, all the places, India has not been able to stop the referendum. If there's any fairness in the world, we have a referendum. The referendum will be 100% successful. So I think we will continue to pursue our legal, peaceful, democratic. I want to say this, that we are liberating Punjab and all the people in Punjab. This referendum is not for Sikhs only. It's for all the people who live in Punjab, no matter what their religion. They may be Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Buddhas, or Sikhs. So this is for everybody. This is about the people of Punjab. This is to bring out economic prosperity, law and order, and individual freedom and religious freedom. Religious freedom is very important. If some people say, we're going to simulate a certain religion, not with Sikhs. The Sikhs have a different prerogative regarding their identity and protection of their religion. And India will never be able to overpower Sikhs. I think the Sikhs are doing the right thing. I think we're on the right track. I think we are doing activities, and the whole world democracy is with us. I think we're going to succeed. it's a matter of time.
Indeed, a very clear message, but unfortunately there we must leave it. But we will be talking again with Dr. Sandhu soon to continue our discussion. Dr. Sandhu, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Scott. I appreciate you having me on your program.
Pleasure as always. And thank you for watching the SATLUJ TV podcast. We will see you next time.